Give me a countdown.
This is Arts Alive. I'm Lynda Philippi. My guest today is Paula Blackwell. Paula's an artist who does some incredible work in encaustics. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that we could work out a time for you to be on the show. I know we've
Yeah.
been working through this for a while, and it's great to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you and your work, which is interesting and unusual. Why don't you start by telling people what encaustic is?
It's the actual definition of encaustic means to burn in, and you use a torch or iron or some kind of heat source to basically. I'm using beeswax. A lot of artists use beeswax or soy wax or canuba wax. I like the beeswax. I like
Smells
it.
good.
Yeah, that's what I really like about it is the smell. And I use like a cosmetic grade that's been highly filtered
Oh, okay.
rather than a bleached. I'm all about the health of it.
Sure.
So good ventilation and whatever, to keep it safe.
So does beeswax have a lower melting point as well, or is it all about the
Gee.
same?
Yeah, I only work with the
Oh,
beeswax,
so you don't know,
I don't
right,
really
okay.
know what the other, but they do have varying temperatures. Some people use paraffin, so there's all kinds of different encaustic waxes.
I just remembered this whole thing from being in, brownies, right?
Yeah.
100 years ago. And in the fall, where you take the wax paper and the autumn leaves, and then the wax paper and the iron, and you make the placemats.
Yeah.
That's encaustic, I guess, right? Sort of, ish.
I would say that you
Something.
are using a wax and you're using a heat source,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So when you do this, then do you paint the image and then put the wax on and melt it over the top? Is that how that works?
I put like several layers of beeswax and really sear it into the wood.
Over a painting, or do you paint
No,
on top of
I
it?
start with the wood
Okay.
and just clear coat it and layer it up with the torch. I torch each layer and really make sure it's really adhered to the wood and seared in there. And then once it starts to get like a cloudy, milky white where it looks like a regular canvas or jumping off point, I might texture it and do some color smudging in just to get it going, and then wipe it off just so that there's some something going on in the peaks and valleys of the wax. Then I clear coat that and then fuse it. Every layer gets fused. Then I come back with an oil paint and I kind of smudge it in. And I mostly use my fingers with the oil paint with gloves. And then I torch that and clear coat that and torch that and then clear coat several more layers to protect it, encase it, sandwich it in there, and also, in between each layer, I will look and see if it needs more, or less, or so you can take away and put back and keep layering, scraping, whatever process you feel comfortable with. And I'll tell you, there's a million ways to do it. So many artists have different techniques, and some use just pigmented wax and paint their picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there's photography in wax, and there's
Where like you would put the image down and then put the wax over the top and like that, or?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then kind of maybe color it in, and then or not. It just depends on what you like. There's also so many things that you can use, like practically everything that's like oil-based or oil mixable, you can use to create an image or even color one in or enhance it in any way.
Wow.
Yeah, like, oil pastels.
Oh, sure,
You could use
right.
those. Yeah, so.
Because yeah, once you apply the heat, it's just going to sort of melt and pool and
Yeah.
right.
Well, yeah. It depends on how gingerly you do it.
How did you get involved with encaustic? I mean, what made you decide that that was going to be your medium?
I had seen encaustic, and a friend of mine told me that she had taken a class, and I said, she goes, you should take a class. And I thought, well, I don't need another hobby, and it's very involved, the equipment and
I would think
yeah,
so.
yeah,
I'm thinking of kind of a large, messy process.
it's
Yeah, that you have
it
to.
can be, I'm not really messy myself, but yeah, I've seen studio floors like caked with and it's like it's okay,
Sure.
whatever
Oh, yeah.
whatever gets you
It's
there,
a studio, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So in this one, I used tar. So that's a different medium in here, and an image in there.
I see the image, and
of
then
a column.
all the little black circles, that's tar?
Yeah, tar.
Okay.
Yeah, so put that in there. So you can use all kinds of
Sure.
interesting things. I've seen found objects. Like I said, photos and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, of your whatever. I particularly like landscapes and seascapes, and I like just whatever. Like I kind of go with a color theme. I really like earthy, natural kind of tones, and I try to find like organic things that I think like this would. It seems to marry well with beeswax, the tar, but as far as my whole palette, I tend to stick with real earthy kind of colors. I use, reds and things like that sparingly, and yellows and whites. Just whatever's really bright, I dial it down, and as much kind of go with that atmospheric feel and look.
Where do you mostly show your work?
I am in a few galleries in New York and
Okay.
Florida, and Whitebird and Cannon Beach, and Seattle, just a couple in Washington, and I'm also published, so I have my work going to art fairs and all over the world. So
when you say published,
my work is printed at.
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I've been picked up by a publishing company
Oh,
that
okay.
that shows my work to, Nordstrom's. And,
Oh, I see, like that. Okay.
Z Gallery and places like that they'll buy a certain amount and then or furnish a hotel or and when you do a hotel it's called hospitality.
Of course, right?
And they do whole themes with pieces of work, so every room then would have the same exact image. Originals are like behind the checkout desk,
Right.
or, like that kind
course.
of thing. Yeah. So, but the prints are in every room, or whatever,
So how does encaustic translate in terms of prints? Are they like, is it like a giclée, or how do you do
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah, they do them in giclée. They also, the one thing about encaustics is because there's so many layers, the camera has a hard time focusing.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so I learned some interesting tricks on how to do photography with the encaustics, and the best way is to have like a letter or something with something in writing, and you put it right on the painting, and then they focus in on the writing, and then pull it away, and then take the shot. Yeah.
Otherwise, well, it's true, because something like this, I mean, it's sort of moody and, hazy and impressionistic, and it would be difficult for the camera to say, what is that? What am I supposed to be focusing on here?
Right.
Because really, I can understand the difficulty.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
The camera likes something like a face, or
Yeah.
the letter L, or something like that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it picks right up on that. Yeah, but just because of all the layering, and it doesn't know which layer to focus on. And, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
That's like photographing the surface of Mars, or
I guess.
but it's bumpy.
The atmosphere.
Because, I was sitting here where I'm sitting, I can see all the little bumps and divots and nooks and crannies
Yeah.
in that painting.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if you looked at it flat on, you might not see that at all,
Right, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But I can see, looking over there and just looking at it, I can see it looks, it has a very different look than up close, so.
Yeah, this one, it actually needs to be buffed. What happens is there's a hydro particle in there of water that's naturally in the beeswax, and
Okay.
then what happens is it evaporates, and it'll be like this total milky haze over the whole painting. So if I were to buff this, it would reveal the
Just like with a soft cloth, you'd be
Yeah.
just rub, 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 rub,
Yeah,
rub. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I've pulled them out of boxes, and you can't even see the painting. And then you buff it, and there's the painting underneath.
So
the space.
if you sell a painting to somebody, do you tell them every once in a while you're going to need to do a buff?
If it's a new painting, if it's an old painting, I pretty much have buffed it. And what I tend to do is I'll put them in a cardboard box, and that leaches
Suck the moisture out, yeah.
out really quick. And then I'll buff it up and
Good to go.
yeah, and but they're like extremely shiny then, and so it depends on the look. Some people like it, with the little bit of that more of a misty kind of effect on it.
Yeah.
It just depends. So, but the intention is to have it. The other thing about buffing is it gets harder and harder, and as over time, because the less moisture, the harder.
It starts to get more brittle a little bit.
Well, it won't be
Not
brittle.
brittle, but
Yeah,
Just-
it's just impervious. I've taken a hammer, like on a painting that I didn't like, and like banged it, and it won't
to
even
crack
break.
it. So Paula, if
Yeah.
people want to see more of your work, you have a website, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's Hot Wax Art,
Okay.
and that's HAWT, having a wonderful time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was an acronym that they used to use for postcards, so they didn't have to write it all
Oh,
out.
having a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So people can find you that way.
Yeah.
And see what you have. Well, I really want to thank you for coming in today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
I love your
It's
work.
awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Wait,